On this episode of Delivering Marketing Joy, we talk with author Jeff Haden about why Rob Lowe is making him do 100,000 push-ups. Hi there, and welcome to another edition of Delivering Marketing Joy. I am your host, Kirby Hasseman, and I am thrilled today to have a repeat guest. Mr. Jeff Haden is with us today, and for those who don't know, Jeff is a ghostwriter, speaker, LinkedIn influencer, and contributing editor for Inc.com. He's written more than 50 nonfiction books, including 6 Amazon business and investing #1s. He also wrote the book Transform, which is a fantastic book. I really enjoyed it. So, Jeff, thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Good to be with you again.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, I want to jump right in on a post that I absolutely love that you wrote recently. You wrote this article that Rob Lowe is making you do 100,000 push-ups and 50,000 sit-ups this year. Why is this Rob Lowe's fault?
Well, it's not really Rob Lowe's fault. Like any good marketer, part of getting your message across is you have to find a way to catch attention.
Yeah.
And Rob is a good example. The key to, though, whenever you do try to catch attention, especially if it's online stuff, you have to pay off with whatever your attention grabbing thing is. So the payoff to that is, Rob currently does a show, it's called The Grinder, and he plays an actor who played a lawyer, work with me, and kind of the premise was that his nickname was The Grinder, and, his whole shtick is, I grind it out, I never give up, I never do whatever. So I thought that's kind of, even though in the show it doesn't really come across this way, it's kind of an apt metaphor for how a lot of people succeed, because I don't know anyone that's hugely successful that did it overnight, that didn't have to put in years and hours and effort and sweat and persistence and willpower. I don't know anybody like that. Not that has had long-term success.
Yeah.
And we also kind of currently live in a hacking culture, so to speak, where there's this idea that if you can figure out that one little twist that lets you do minimal work and get maximum output, your life is going to be infinitely better. And I think that works occasionally, but usually, again, the people that do super well have found something that they repeat over and over and over again, and they get better and better and better at it, and that is the source of their success. Mm-hmm. So I kind of took that and said, the metaphor of that really then is, successful people grind. Yeah. They stay with it. They find something that works. They find something that's critical to their success, and then they work it and they improve it. And they keep cruising. So that's kind of the story of it. Yeah. And so what I tried to do in a sort of an eye-catchy way, because I have a book coming out in the fall, and it's about goal achievement and success and stuff like that. And so, I need some ways to help sell it. And so I thought, if you think about lots of big achievements, most of them are built on lots of really small, specific steps along the way. And so, 100,000 push-ups sounds like a lot of push-ups, and it is. But if you break it down per day, it's less than 300 a day. So that still sounds like a lot, but if you do that, at the end of the year, I'll be able to say, wow, I did 100,000 push-ups. And it will not have been this massive, horrible burst that I had to kind of go through. And the same is true with the sit-up part of it. So the whole premise is, that's just one example, but if you have something that you want to do and that it's important to you, and let's say it's business related, you can do really big things if you break it into small chunks and you grind it out, and every day you do that and you do that and you do that and you improve and you try to get better at it. I mean, it's not mindless, but that's what success is picking key things that are important and repeating them.
Yeah, I think Seth Godin talks a little bit about this in the book The Dip, where he says that, at first you go off and you're making these great strides, and then it kind of goes like this. And the people who are successful long term keep going during the dip. And so that, I think, speaks to what you're saying.
Yeah, and the other part of it is that, we all have, anybody that runs a business, let's say, has 50 things they do or should do or could do, let's say could do, on a regular basis. But there are usually 3 or 4 at the most that's where you really, really add value to what you do. And so, if you're running a marketing firm and you're really, the thing you do best is client relationships, well, then that should be what you spend as much of your time on as possible, because that's where you're really earning your keep. Right. And all the other stuff that you can be kind of good at or that's nice to do, maybe that's for somebody else. Right. Maybe that's for nobody else. So it does still come back to that kind of fundamental, what has the biggest bang for the buck? And shouldn't I be doing that consistently and to the best of my ability?
No, for sure. And one of the things I think I keep seeing everywhere, and I say it all the time, is I talk about hustle, right? I talk about getting out there and doing it. And I kind of equate hustle with grinding a little bit. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you could, or I kind of almost see them as opposite.
Oh, okay.
In a way. But both of them are important. So to me, the hustle thing is, hey, there's an opportunity. I'm not going to let it linger. I'm going to jump on it. Okay. Hey, I've got 20 minutes and I'm stuck at the DMV. I brought some stuff with me. I'm going to do this. Okay. Oh, I've got, it's hustle to me is that constant, how do I maximize my time and what I'm doing to keep getting things done and to not let opportunities go by? That's one side. Then the grind side is, these aren't really opportunities. These are things I've identified that I want to do all the time. So part of your day can be hustling and chugging and responding and reacting and seizing opportunities. And the other part can be, for 2 hours a day, this is what I do. And I do it as to the best of my ability because it always pays off. So they're kind of similar, kind of not. It just depends on how you look at it.
No, I like it. I really like that. That makes it.
But it's all about effort in the end. It's about effort, and it's about focused effort, and it's about how do I do this to the best of my ability.
Yeah. So I know that you and I, for those who've missed it, you've been on the show before, and we've talked about give first marketing and give first networking. I know that's what you have talked about, and from my perspective, both of these are long-term investments. They're not something that fixes overnight. And so it occurred to me that maybe there's a level of grinding to a good marketing campaign. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. I would have, I do. I guess I do market when you think about it, because I am marketing myself and I'm marketing the stuff I write. Say if it's for my ink stuff.
Right.
I do 3, sometimes 4 posts a week, roughly. That's what I always try to hit. Not all of them are home runs, but if I am consistently trying and I'm consistently producing, some percentage of them will be.
Yeah.
And so if you're a marketer and you're consistently making contacts, or you're consistently creating connections, or if you're consistently putting your message out there, or if you're trying to find different ways to do that, if you are chugging at that, you do that for 6 months and you really focus and work hard at it, there will be results.
Yeah.
And if there aren't, well, you're doing everything wrong probably. And that's a whole nother, that is another story. But from the give first side of it, I'm a pretty good example. I don't write very many things that like PR people pitch me. Like companies pitch me stuff all the time saying, hey, you should write about this, hey, you should whatever, because they're interested in my audience, which is fine. I don't do very much of that, because I usually don't find them interesting.
Right.
And plus, the pitches are terrible, which could be a whole nother conversation. But there are people who will make contact with me, and they're not looking for anything. They're just saying, hey, I know you write about these things, and this seemed kind of cool. You might want to check it out. It has nothing to do with them. Or they might, there's a lot of examples with that, but they try to kind of become friends first in a giving way. And after a while, there are times when I'll sit there and think, this is a pretty good guy.
Yeah.
What does this company do? And I'll look and I'll think, I can probably do something with that. And I'll actually be the one that says, I've got a story idea for this, and it comes from me. And of course, I'm going to be much more invested in that because it came from me and it didn't come from them.
Yeah.
So that whole idea of, I'm going to give this to you, and I'm doing it sincerely and genuinely and with no real hope of return. Yeah. If you do that, you end up connecting with people who are the same way, who want to give to you that way, and those end up being the good connections, and the stuff that you are given tends to be really good because it's given freely as opposed to, oh, okay, I'll write about that. So from a marketing point of view, to me, it's hard because it's a long-term play.
Yep.
And you should probably have some short-term stuff that you're doing off to the side too.
Yeah.
But when you can get to those places, then, the world is awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
It's not overnight.
Yeah, no, it's like we said, it's long term. But I always say I'm trying to create a 20-year customer, and I think when you do that, you have a really strong business long term. So,
and the other part of the giving thing, if I can, if you're consistently doing that, one of the things about the whole grinding and consistency is that it gives you repetitions. It's kind of like being at the gym. The more reps you do, the better you get at something. So it gives you reps. And so when you're grinding, if you're thinking about what you're doing and you're focused on how did this work, how can I do it better, what can I do next time, you get really good at stuff because you've put in a lot of effort and a lot of time. And you've put in the reps. So that's the other cool thing about that, especially if you're trying to be a give-first marketer, you'll get pretty good at it because you'll get pretty savvy at saying, not what do I want to give, but what does Kirby need?
Right.
And that's the stuff, when you give what they need, then you've made a connection.
Yeah, that makes total sense. It makes total sense. Well, Jeff, I've
got a question for you, if it's all right.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because it appears that you're kind of grinding something out yourself.
A little bit.
Unless I am wrong, you've started doing like a podcast a day.
Yes, sir.
Which, is about as crazy as me and my 300 push-ups a day. So tell me why and how that goes and what you've gotten from that.
Yeah, so essentially, I started doing this web show, and I do it once a week. I interview different authors, entrepreneurs, business leaders, and I actually got the feedback, gosh, I'd really like to see this in a podcast version. And so I'd been kind of chewing on that anyway. And then at the beginning of the year, or the end of last year, I was like, okay, I've been doing this, but how can I take this to the next level? How can I provide, and quite frankly, I'm not trying to play to what you just said, but how can I provide the most value to the most people? And really, in my experience, the coolest things that have been accomplished in the last 10 years are usually accomplished by people who, when you say it, people go, well, that's nuts. And so then it's interesting, and then people buy in, right? And so I was like, well, I'm going to do, and it's short. It's a 5 to 10 minute podcast, little inspiration, motivation kind of thing, each and every business day. And so the feedback's been pretty good, but to your point, it's been a grind. And at this point, I'm only 2 months in. So there's been weeks where I'm like, hey, I'm really onto something. And then weeks that there's kind of crickets. Right. And so, the goal is to stick with it, and let's see where I'm at after I do 100,000 push-ups of podcasts. Right. And so I'm excited about it, and hopefully it provides some value.
That's a challenging creativity exercise for you.
Yeah.
Because, there's this old radio kind of cliche that anybody, if you're doing a radio show, everybody can be good on Monday. If it's your first time.
Yeah, right.
Your Tuesday show is probably going to be pretty good. Wednesday you might be able to get through, but what do you have on Thursday? And most people by Thursday have run out.
Yeah.
And so for you, I'm sure you're constantly trying to think ahead of what can I do? Where can I take this? What can I do differently? What can I do new? And that's a muscle that exercising it, you do get stronger, and it'll pay off.
Well, I hope so. It's been fun. I'm
saying it'll pay off. So
yeah. Well, I mean, it's been fun, and I think at the end of the day, if I'm trying to keep the audience in mind, and I think you mentioned that, it's like, okay, what can I say today that will get them going and hopefully provide value? So it's been pretty cool, and I appreciate you being a part of this today.
Thank you.
All right. Well, hey, thanks, Jeff. I really appreciate it. And that's going to wrap up another edition of Delivering Marketing Joy. And hopefully, Jeff, we will do this again.
Sounds good.
All right. We'll see you next time. Hey, thanks for watching. But wait, can you do me a favor? Please subscribe to my channel. If you haven't done it already, the way to do it's right over here. And hey, if you want to watch the last episode, check that out over here. Again, before you leave, subscribe.